Metal Gear Solid is one of the very few franchises where I've completed almost every single game in the series, yet I still don't consider myself a huge fan of. Each game, 1 through 4, I'd give a 7, maybe 7.5 out of 10. But today I'm going to be talking about Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker for the PSP, or the HD edition for the PS3, since that's basically the same game. Peace Walker starts out on a much calmer note than most of its predecessors. Instead of being thrown directly into Snake's latest mission, you're faced with a controlled tutorial on how the game works. I suppose this makes sense given the drastic changes this game has made in gameplay mechanics since MGS4, but I can't help but feel they could have done a better job of teaching the player the new controls instead of having a drill instructor bark them at you.
To move your line of sight, use the right stick! Now when I give you an order, look in that direction!
This feels especially out of place considering they start you out playing as the now legendary Big Boss, but they also give you the option to skip it, so I guess it's okay. Gameplay-wise, the game feels like it should. You're encouraged to sneak around, succeeding at being stealthy is about as rewarding as it should feel, and the controls all work like they should, on the HD re-release at least. The lack of a second analog stick on the PSP was obviously a hindrance since this game plays more like MGS3 and 4, which both relied heavily on the second analog stick, but again, the HD version totally clears up this problem. There are a few adjustments which take a while to get used to, such as the lack of the ability to crawl or to shoot while lying down, but in the end the gameplay is as satisfying as ever. Perhaps the biggest difference between this Metal Gear Solid game and the others is the cutscenes. If this was originally a console game, I would say it was a lazy excuse for Kojima's team to get away with not animating 3D models for integral parts of the story. But since it was originally on the PlayStation Portable, I think it was a good choice that allowed for all the plot to be well conveyed while still holding true to that traditional Metal Gear Solid style. These QuickTime events seem sort of unnecessary, but I suppose they do add in a sense of urgency to these otherwise long, sometimes tedious cutscenes. You can also zoom in wherever you want during any cutscene in traditional Kojima style, which is always fun too. As you progress through the game, you follow a bit of a routine. You select a mission, you capture enemy soldiers and prisoners while you're attempting to finish the mission, you complete the mission, you go back to your base and develop it by assigning soldiers to different areas, then lather, rinse, repeat. It may sound a bit repetitive when you explain it flat out like this, but different mission objectives keep it from getting stale, at least while you're doing story missions. The character development in these story missions is definitely not as strong as it was in the other MGSs. In fact, the one who perhaps experiences the most character growth is an AI. The rest of the narrative is as confusing as we've come to expect from Hideo Kojima, but without a lot of the strange and unusual plot devices. The main objective of the game is, as you can imagine, to dismantle Peace Walker, and there really isn't much more to it. The pacing is well kept up for the majority of the game, and the overall presentation of the game, despite originally being on a handheld system, is nearly as good as ever. Aside from the main story missions, Peace Walker also has a huge list of extra ops you can unlock which are more or less completely optional until you beat the game, or at least until you think you've beat the game. After the credits roll at the end of Chapter 4, you're treated with a simple message, to be continued in Chapter 5. The problem is, you're given no more story missions after watching the end credits, so you have no way of knowing for sure how to unlock this hidden chapter. I'm gonna ramble on about this for a little bit now, so just bear with me for a minute. I could not unlock this game's final mission. I beat Chapter 4, I expanded my base, all my units are completely full, I've completed every single extra op except for the last 15 or so, which seem impossible if you're not playing co-op, and I'm gonna be vague about this last part to avoid spoiling anything. But I completed the robot you're supposed to build, and I completed the first 6 missions you receive in Chapter 5. You're supposed to get a call from Kaz after having done all this and subsequently unlock the final mission, but he just won't call. I just can't get it. If anyone has played this game and knows what I'm doing wrong, feel free to leave a comment below, but I just can't figure it out. Nothing I've looked at online helps. But despite all its flaws, this was the largest amount of time I've ever put into a Metal Gear Solid game, which is weird since it was a portable game and you'd think the console games would be larger in scale. The fact that you're helping to improve your base with each new mission accomplished adds a lot of replay value to the game, and it's all built on an engine that takes quite a bit of time to grow old. It'll get stale eventually because of the small amount of maps that end up having to be reused to accommodate for the size of the game, and it certainly does have its share of flaws, but it does its best for as long as it can. I give Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, much like its predecessors, a 7 out of 10.